Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm Ross, and today I'm going to continue my segments on analysing the Necrons Codex. Today I'm going to look at Nemesor Zahndrekh. Quite an interesting character because, well, lore-wise, there's a lot of weird things about him that make him quite a paradox between tactical genius and a bit of an unfortunate soul. How this works is I'm going to do a wee bit of a lore talk, just short snippet on sort of a wee bit about Nemesor Zahndrekh. We're going to look at his stats in the book, special abilities that do affect him, then we have a look at dynasty traits, any warlord traits that might be applicable, and stratagems that might be useful with him as well. So with that, let's have a look at Nemesor Zahndrekh. So Nemesor Zahndrekh is a little bit of an odd character, mainly due to the opposites of his strategic genius and efficiency versus his own personal eccentricities. See, during the Great Sleep, which is what sort of all the Necrons took millennia ago, and then they woke up and they're like, oh, we've got to do something about this universe. Upon waking up to the galaxy, some of the Necrons suffered severe damage, one of which was Zahndrekh. In this damage, he is not, truly, by some miracle, less efficient in military talent. Indeed, he still serves at pretty high efficiency. However, he still thinks that he is back in time and not actually fighting other races of the galaxy, but instead fighting his own kingsmen and trying to bring all the dynasties, improve his dynasty and bring them all together. Which is kind of a strange situation to be in. How this truly works when he's fighting things like Tyrannids is that he thinks his enemy kingsmen have employed a huge amount of beasts of war, which a bit perplexes him, but he's still pretty good at fighting them, so he's like, cool, that's fine, I get the situation, I'll kill these beasts of war. When is Tyrannids? Yeah, so he's not quite all together on that one. His sort of ability to still partly be in the past but still be a good tactical genius is a bit strange. And even more so, so that's Tyrannids. What happens when he fights Elder or the Demons of Chaos, things that are more warp orientated? How he must rationalise this, I don't know. How he still remains to be a strategic genius when he can't properly identify his opponent says a lot, either by his skill prior to the Great Sleep, the abilities of his subordinates, Oberon in particular, who we'll get into a lot more detail later on, as in if you see Nemesor Zahndrekh you often see Vargard Oberon along with him, especially lore-wise, or the vast abilities of the denizens of the galaxy in themselves, if they can't best a general who's not quite understanding that he is fighting aliens. No, he's kingsman from millennia ago, he still thinks he's there. Yeah, it speaks a lot about various things, or plot. Zahndrekh often takes his opponents and generals / warlords alive, if possible. He still believes in the honour of combat with his kingsmen. This must be a very strange situation with him trying to treat with someone, especially those of the universe that are not so into treating, such as orcs, or those who understand the situation that they have been taken capture by a Necron who is trying to treat with them as if it was a millennia ago and they are kingsmen. Elder would be just like, what is this going on? So yeah, it must come to some of the most strangest situations that are going on. Invariably, situations like this often require his generals to clean up the mess. To quote the Codex, they are killed while trying to escape, quite often. As such, as many would like to replace Zahndrekh of his subordinates, his efficiency and loyal retinue often, manage to keep him safe and stop these upstart lords from replacing him. However, with all this, what I'm sure is supposed to be a humorous character of not knowing exactly what's going on, but still being incredibly successful, there is also sort of the mindset of a character who is somehow reflective of, say, dementia or other medical issues that affects one's mind and maybe memory. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, you know, but it's almost, this brings a much more far tragic reading to this character, never fully aware of the situation that they're currently in, but also comical in the situations that invariably they end up in. Just a very interesting character, and boys, there are a few interesting characters in Necrons, but a very interesting character that is also quite tragic, and I would personally love to hear what people's thoughts are when it comes to the lore of Nemesor Zahndrekh. But enough of the lore, let's have a look at him when used in the game. So stat-wise, we'll have a look at, he is movement 5, which is pretty standard for a Necron. Weapon skill and bliss skill 2+, so hits reliably as you would expect of a Necron Lord. Strength and toughness 5, again, as you would expect of a Necron Lord. He has 6 wounds, which compared to most Necron Lords is a little bit higher, which is nice. So he has a bit more endurance, 1 extra wound. Doesn't hurt. 3 attacks, which was the same as an Overlord. You know, a bit tragically low. I think this is to say that Necrons are slow, so they have less attacks. Okay, fair enough. He is leadership 10, as you'd expect. All Necrons are, I believe. I don't think there's any that are not leadership 10. And he has a 2+ save, which is pretty good. You know, I believe many of the Overlords, especially, I do believe, does not have a 2+ save. No, they're only 3+. So having a 2+ save does mean he is a little bit more survivable as well. He is only armed with the Staff of Light, or a Staff of Light. So Staff of Light can be a shooting weapon, which is range 12, assault 3, strength 5, minus 2 AP, 1 damage, or melee is strength user, minus 2 AP, 1 damage. Very lackluster. So, you know, it might do some damage in range, might do a little bit in combat, but generally you're going to find Nemesor Zahndrekh is not going to do well in combat. That's kind of not what his game is, you know, that's why he brings Oberon to sort of defend him. And again, second video we'll talk about him in a bit more detail. But yeah, combat-wise... So what special abilities does he have to make up for this? We've got Living Metal, so you're going to regenerate a wound at the beginning of your turn, which is good. Very nice, 6 wounds, plenty of wounds to bring back as long as no one KOs him instantly. Counter Tactics. At the beginning of your opponent's turn, choose one enemy character within 12 inches of Nemesor Zahndrekh. Any aura abilities that character has cannot be used until the beginning of your opponent's next turn. So this is an interesting ability. Being able to shut down auras is hugely beneficial ability. Certainly for, say, rerolls is devastating, possibly preventing a lot of rerolls and other abilities. Primarchs in particular, I'm looking at you Gilliman, will hate this. I mean, he offers a load of aura abilities, but in general, a lot of people love their aura abilities, so shut them down, that's pretty good. However, and this is a big however, you need to be within 12 inches to deny the ability. Now, if you are against another support character and you're close, then this may not be so bad, because they're support characters, so they're not going to be as tough, so yeah, not bad. If they are a combat monster, however, like Smash Captain or worse, the aforementioned Primarch, will probably get very annoyed at Zahndrekh for shutting down their aura abilities. So at 12 inches he has to it's at the beginning of your opponent's turn, so Zahndrekh is going to be within 12 inches of them. Expect him to become the focus of their attention, and he may not do too bad, he's fairly survivable, you know, toughness 5, 6 wounds, 2+ save, 4 pinball, which we'll get into in a minute. You know, so fairly survivable, but he's only going to do 1 damage back per attack himself. So he's not likely to win any fights anytime soon against most things that are pretty much combat monsters. Again, that's not really his job, he brings Oberon to sort of try and defend him. So, but still, it is a short range ability to shut down other people's ability. I just think that that is extremely tricky. Nemesor Zahndrekh really doesn't want to be that close, but with this ability it kind of pushes you on to be. So quite tricky on that side as well. Do you become more aggressive with him to try and shut down abilities, or is it not worth it because you do, you know, a lot of the Necron characters are quite good buff characters, they're not really designed to be front line, unless depending on your playstyle. But this certainly, to get the most out of Nemesor Zahndrekh, sort of says you've got to push forward. He has Phase Shifter, which gives him a 4-up invul, pretty standard for Overlords and certainly pretty good. 4-up invul, can't complain with that. My will be done. At the beginning of your turn, choose a friendly Sautekh infantry unit within 6 inches of Nemesor Zahndrekh, add 1 to advance, charge, hit rolls for the unit until the beginning of your next turn. A unit can only be chosen as target of this ability once in each turn. Fantastic ability. Is it better than reroll 1s? Well, reroll 1s actually affects multiple units. So, by the way, when you do target a big blob unit, so you know you could go with Necron Warriors, and I feel I'm going to repeat this quite a lot when I'm discussing Overlords and things. But, you know, just to have the +1 can activate Tesla on Immortals a lot more efficiently, making them to 5s, use a Stratagem, you know, the Sautekh one where, you know, they add +1 to it when it's a unit that's already been wounded. Methodical Destruction means you can activate Tesla on 4s. Really good. Infantry, you know, Necron Warriors, adding 2+ to it, really good. Because he's maybe going forward a wee bit, might also be good on Lich Guard as well, so they are hitting on 2s. And I absolutely love Lich Guard, I think they are really, really good. So, you know, again, my will be done, always going to be pretty good. The next one we have is one of his own special rules again, Transient Madness. Roll a d3 at the beginning of your turn and consult the following table. Choose a friendly Sautekh infantry unit within 6 inches of Nemesor Zahndrekh to gain the relevant ability until the beginning of the turn. D3 results. Result 1. Avenge the Fallen. Add 1 to the attacks characteristics of models in this unit. Excellent. Quell the Rebellion. Improve the ballistic skill of the models in this unit by 1, e.g. ballistic skill of 2+ becomes, of 3+ becomes 2+. Cool. And number 3, my personal favourite, Solar Mills, question mark, charge. Reroll failed charge rolls for this unit. So, you know, firstly, you know, this has my favourite sort of ability slash joke. Number 3, ability Solar Mills, he's a bit confused. Oh yeah, charge. So yeah, a bit of madness in that one. So all of these abilities are nice, though 2 of them focus on combat. So if you are combat focused like me, but if you are, you're probably going to be Novak, not Sautekh. But that's not important. You know, you start back, the important point is, rules as written, is that you roll the result first. So you go, right, so random roll first, d3, and then you consult then you go, right, I've got that ability, who could I apply it to? That's really useful to determine the result first and then apply it. Because the last thing you want to do is, you know, for instance, you don't want to buff up the attacks of Necron Warriors. If you really wanted the ballistic skill one, you're like, well, if I chose them first and then you end up getting, say, even the reroll charge, you're going to be a bit upset about that. Or if you choose Lich Guards and then you go, got the ballistic skill one, that's a bit of a waste. No, you know what the result's going to be first and then you can apply around it. However, it is a very short ranged ability of only being 6 inches, so you're probably already like decided how you want to play this as it is. What I mean by that is, you know, if you're going along with a group of Lich Guards, you already know what one you want before you even roll the dice, so if you still end up rolling the 2, you're going to be like, oh, I need to re-roll that. Or if you're planning to sit back and buff up Necron Warriors, you know you're probably going to want the 2. So it's a bit tricky on that one. It's still nice that you determine the result and then choose the unit. That helps remove a lot of the sort of random effects of the dice. Because 2 of them are combat, 1's ranged, it makes it a little bit more unreliable. I'm a bit glad that maybe more ranged is boosted, because 1, my playstyle, I like combat when I play Necrons. Adding 1 to attack characteristics of the unit is really good on Lich Guard. Reroll charge makes them a little bit more helpful. But the ballistic skill, if you're a gunline, then you've got a 1 in 3 chance, and that's not really ideal there. But it's still nice to have these sort of buff abilities. Legion trait, Sautekh Dynasty, Relentless Advance. This adds literally nothing to Nemesor Zahndrekh himself. Like nothing. He already has an assault weapon and no heavy weapons. You know, this may be common in Sautekh characters, but is by no means a bad trait, just not beneficial to them so much. Warlord trait is Zahndrekh's Warlord trait, Hyperlogical Strategist. Basically, Hyperlogical Strategist is your ability that allows you to, once per battle, you can reroll a single hit, wound roll, or damage roll made for the Warlord. In addition, if your army is battle forged and your Warlord is on the battlefield, roll a d6 each time you spend a command point to use a stratagem. On a 5+, that command point is refunded immediately. Immediately refunded. I know people who absolutely swear by this one, Hypological Strategist. Already I'm seeing the Necron comments of a lot of people discussing it and the merits. I've not really played many forces where I can farm command points. I predominantly play Admech and Chaos, who've not really had a way to do it, though with Shadow Spear I think there's now a way to sort of do it with Demonkin. But with the only other force I really had was Necrons, and it's behind the Sautekh Dynasty, which I don't play very much. I have not really used these sort of gain points back. The other part of that one is that it requires you to only refund the command points that you have back, and at 5+ that means you're going to get roughly 1/3 of your command points back. I play usually very elite armies, so I start off with 4 command points, and Necrons are kind of hard to get command points. So if you're only getting 1/3 back, that works out to be about 1.5 command points I'm getting. And the personal reroll I find is very wasted on Nemesor Zahndrekh. He is not wanting to be in combat because he's not going to win, which is not ideal, or the damage going to inflict is not going to be ideal. Prove me wrong this, when everyone's like, a lot of people will say no, it's worth it and everything, and I think if you play 8 command points, then yeah, you've got a chance of getting nearly 3 command points back, which is not bad. But I'm just not convinced. And then obviously with when you have tactical restraint, there's less chance to do so as well, but it's only when you spend a command point, as opposed to if your opponent had like 13 command points and you can roll on them as well. It's only when you, so if you play a low command point army, it's not ideal. I think it's not bad. Please tell me I'm wrong on that one. Many people have, but I'm just not convinced by it. There's so many Warlord traits there that I am a much bigger fan of. Stratagems, they are a tricky one for Necrons. They are widely spread, often focusing on units specifically. So you've got ones that focus specifically on Catan, specifically on Lichguard, specifically on Night Scythe. So there's not so many general ones, which is not ideal. And there's a few that do focus on HQs, and ones that can affect Zahndrekh. So the Pharaoh's Will, 1 command point. Use a stratagem after an overlord from your army has used My Will Be Done or Wave of Command ability. This model can immediately use that ability for a second time this turn. Probably the most useful ability on Zahndrekh as a predominant buff character, though okay in combat, but his buff abilities are kind of what you want to do with him. You know, this will help efficiently if you're taking, you know, large bobs of Necron warriors, which I am a big fan of, to make them hit on 2s. 2 units of 20, My Will Be Done on both of them. Cool, can be a lot of fun. Or you can put them onto Tesla Immortals, and then you're going to be hitting on 5s, Teslaing on 5, hitting on 2s, Tesla on 5. You can also use the Sautekh Dynasty, stratagem, which was the one I mentioned. Just say Methodical Destruction. Yep, Methodical Destruction, to make sure you activate Tesla on 4s if there is a big target you want to go for. Generally adding +1 to 2 units for 1 command point. Well, you're getting one for free already, getting another one for a command point. It's pretty good depending on the unit's size. Even Lichguard, etc. can benefit from this in combat because it adds to their charge roll as well. I'm a big fan of Lichguard hitting hard, so yeah, you know, adding an extra unit can be really, really good. It's not one I use a lot because I play low command points, but it is really good when the situation does arise. If you are, for instance, a very good trick, I think I did this once before, I used the Deceiver, moved my Overlord and 2 Necron Warriors into rapid fire range turn 1, use that stratagem, it was devastating. So really good, that's one to always think about if you use an Overlord who has My Will Be Done. Resurrection Protocols, you use 1 command point, use a stratagem when a Necron character from your army, excluding Trazian the Infinite and Catan Shards, is slain. At the end of the phase, roll a d6. On a 4+, that character sets up again as close as possible to his previous position and more than 1 inch away from the enemy model with 1 wound remaining. The stratagem cannot be used to resurrect the same model more than once per battle. Interesting stratagem, die on your opponent's turn, and then yeah, you come back at the start of your turn and you'll be essentially back up to 2 wounds because you get living metal, which is very handy. Zahndrekh is not the most fearsome in combat, so you know he will have abilities then to sort of keep shutting down your opponent's abilities, but If he's in a situation where he is getting killed, probably in combat, probably because he's trying to play about with people's abilities and shut them down, then you bring him back up again. You can bet your opponent's probably going to just try and swing and bring him down again. So it's tricky. Certainly this one to bring back your character, you know, lore-wise, fluff-wise, really cool, but its usefulness is a bit tricky on that side as well. I think in certain situations it's going to be handy. I believe also there was, and I don't know if they've clarified this in an FAQ, but there was a battle report where the community team did actually have this happen where someone slayed the Warlord, which was the Overlord, and then they reanimated, and they said, well, because you did efficiently do slay the Warlords and they may have came back, you still have achieved it. So it doesn't even prevent slay the Warlord as far as I'm concerned either. Even though you came back, you were slain at one point and you score it immediately once the Warlord has been slain. So yeah, come back, but your opponent may still get victory points, which is not ideal. So that's my video on Nemesor Zahndrekh. Difficult one, I have to say. Really is going to depend on your playstyle. Because he's slow, because his buffs are mediocre to you have to play aggressively with him to get the most out of him, I find that a little bit of a challenge. I know David is a huge fan of him and has played him a few times and done pretty well, but really because I don't play Sautekh Dynasty either, I find that a little bit of a trick that I can't quite work out. Love to hear people's thoughts on Nemesor Zahndrekh. Please comment, share, like and subscribe. I'm absolutely loving the comments I'm getting in the Necron videos already. People certainly giving their thoughts, and I'm seeing a huge variety in different ways to play Necrons, and I love it. It's really, really good reading. So yeah, check us out on social media. We've got a bunch of products coming up. We have quite a few armies that are almost ready to go on the channel to start getting them on as well. So we're trying to get some photos of them going, and check us out on Patreon because it helps, you know, you can help us bring more content, which we absolutely love doing because it's a lot of fun and the support you give us is excellent. So thanks again, and we'll see you on our Tabletop Assault Battle Report.